Revolutionizing Independent Music, the Impact of Technology on Creation and Production. We will examine how technology has enabled indie artists to produce high-quality music from project studios and how professional-sounding recordings can be achieved without relying on traditional studios.
Hello, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Principal is here today.
हिप हॉप आर्टिस्ट की आवाज़ से पता लग जाता कि वो हिप हॉप आर्टिस्ट है.
मैं माइक पे गाता नहीं हूँ बट बढ़िया.
Thank you everybody for coming. We are running a little late, it seems, because of the typical Bombay traffic and heavy rains yesterday, day before. But yeah, traffic is the main issue. Entry into this place and then finding your way in. Things have changed from the last many years that I've been attending Palm. I mean, it used to be on the first floor as you enter, used to be all the conference rooms. And now it has been shifted here. So there's a whole layout change as well, which is a little tough to navigate if you are new to it. So I think that's also what's happening. I think everybody's here for this topic, which is a burning topic right now regarding technology and its use in music production, its creation and production. There is another aspect of the electronic music industry, which is distribution, how it is distributed. I don't think today we'll focus on that because that's not the kind of reason that we are here with this panel, particular one. Just to say in the beginning that the way we make music, the way we distribute music, and the way we listen to music, all that has changed in the last few decades. All those three things have changed, okay? तो हर चीज़ जो फ़र्क हुआ आ गया है उसमें अभी हमें उसका मद्देनज़र रखते हुए आगे चलना है. What is the way forward? I think that is something which should come out from this panel discussion. How are people using technology? How are people adapting to technology? And while I was having a chat with these two gentlemen, I forwarded the notion that I am the dinosaur amongst all these. And then I was promoted to a fossil by Meghdeep saying, "Aap fossil ho and we are the dinosaurs." So having seen the change from analog to digital in my time, and I was fortunate to actually see the best of analog and work with it. That meant, I don't know if any of you are familiar with tape machines, alignment procedures, biasing procedures, and of course noise, because it was tape, generation loss, and believe you me, no pitch correction, no rhythm correction. It is what it is. अगर आपने ठीक नहीं गाया आप फिर से गाइए, right? और अगर आपने ठीक में नहीं बजाया rhythm में ही तो फिर से बजाइए. That was the norm. That's the place where we've come from. I have come from. I can't say about we, but I have come from. And now today, where you are ruled by something, a big word called undo. That's the biggest boon that you have right now is undo. Hundreds levels of undos that you can do, which saves your ass so many times. It's unbelievable. We had no undo. So we've come from there. So I can see the shift, how it has happened in technology. And the only way to work with that is to make friends with it. You can't fight technology. You have to make friends with it. You have to make the effort to understand it, just like any new thing which is coming out. And only then will you be able to adapt and work with it to get the best out of what is available to you right now. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. आप पिछड़ जाएंगे, पीछे रह जाएंगे. So that is my view on it. We'll try and get these two gentlemen's view on it as well, as to what do they think. Meghdeep, of course, has had a great trajectory where he actually also worked on some of the early analog gears which were there. And he's a huge fan of analog gear and has a huge collection of analog synths. He still tracks guitars, plays bass. He does it live. तो बहुत कुछ अभी भी वो उसमें करता है. And in fact, just shared with this and he's gone into patch bay mode again, which is like, wow. He actually uses bantam jacks for patch bay. He's back into that again. So which is very unique in today's day and age of digital worlds. So that's happened with him. And he is trying to straddle the hybrid system is what we call, where I'm using also class A tube amplifiers, equalizers, compressors, which are hardware. And I'm integrating that into my system, which is a digital system, which is a computer. So a lot of people are working in the hybrid system right now, but people like Kanchan are working out of the box. He takes a laptop, goes wherever in the world, and Japan is his favorite place.
Yes, sir.
And he also has a style of music which is called
J-Trap, that's all
J-Trap.
बढ़िया.
So ये तो एक लैपटॉप पे काम करता है सारा. That's all it is. His studio is his laptop. Of course, his studio at home is called Dojo. It's still called that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there you go. So, वो तो एक लैपटॉप पे काम करता है, and I think a large percentage of the new music producers, musicians are all working on laptops, and that's a sign of times. And look at the machines where they've come from. I bought a 6080-30 processor in 1989, the Apple's machine, which was a 9-inch screen, single color, built into the same box, that's green. Okay? SE30 was the machine. It was the biggest jump in technology in 1989. A 68030 processor, my God, we were thrilled. And of course, it had only 512 MB RAM. Okay? Unthinkable today's age. Okay, since the panelists are all here, and I think we can begin this conversation, which everybody is waiting for. So, without much further ado, let me jump, I think, straight to Kanchan, because like I mentioned, he's the guy who's using technology from a totally different perspective of the newer generation who is using everything out of a laptop. So just to get his opinion, I want to float this idea to everybody here on the panel, that let's talk about the creative process. What kickstarts your creative process? How do you individually look at a creative process of creating some music, some sounds? How does that happen to you? And I'm sure it's different for everybody. So it'll be good to get a perspective on what kickstarts your creative process. So, Kanchan?
For me, मतलब, if I have an inspiration, okay, I want to make a sound like जैसे बैठा हूँ कुछ एक आइडिया आ गया, वॉइस नोट रिकॉर्ड कर देता हूँ कि मतलब ऐसा है ये है ना, और फिर बाद में मैं जाके बैठता हूँ मेरे लैपटॉप पे. तो एक वो है कि जब मेरे पास आइडिया आता है तो आई स्टार्ट फ्रॉम स्क्रैच. ओके, दिस इज समथिंग इन माई हेड. आई स्टार्ट साउंड डिजाइनिंग, यूज सैम्पल्स एंड बिल्ड इट अप वैसा, एंड देन गो विद द फ्लो कि कैसे बिल्ड हो रहा है गाना. मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इंस्पिरेशन आता नहीं है, तो मैं क्या करता हूँ कि बस बैठता हूँ और एक्सपेरिमेंट करते रहता हूँ. जस्ट आई जस्ट सिट देयर, आई गो थ्रू सैम्पल्स, गेट इंस्पायर्ड, जस्ट चॉप इट अराउंड. एक कुछ सैम्पल लूँगा, उस पर पूरा बिल्ड करते जाऊँगा बहुत टाइम तक, एंड फिर बाद में उसमें से एक चीज़ अच्छा निकलता है तो वो लेता हूँ बाहर, बाकी सब डिलीट कर देता हूँ, फिर उससे गाना बनाता हूँ. तो दैट्स मोस्टली हाउ आई मेड ऑल ऑफ माई सॉन्ग्स ऑनेस्टली. डिवाइन का सत्या हो गया, जो भी, इट ऑल स्टार्टेड ऑफ एज डिफरेंट सॉन्ग्स, but it ended up becoming something else. So for me, it's always like trial and error, experiment करते रहो. Honestly, I'm not a musician as such. मैंने सीखा नहीं music, तो for me, splice बचा लेता है मेरे को कभी-कभी. But other than that, like I really like to make bass lines. That's something that I really love. And programming drums is like my favorite thing in this world. So like मेरे को किसका भी गाना दे दो additional production के लिए भी मेरे को मज़ा आता है कि चलो मैं drums इसका पूरा change कर दूँगा. तो I love to do that. I love to play with the rhythm. I like to play with ideas. But my process is very different. Like when I'm making music for myself, it's very different. And when I'm putting the producer hat and producing for some other artist, it's very different. Like that time I have to understand what the artist is looking for. उनका क्या वाइब है. और आर्टिस्ट लोग है ना बहुत कैसे बताओ, मतलब बहुत सेंसिटिव रहते हैं. लाइक तुम लोग उनको जाके बोल नहीं सकते यार ये तेरा आइडिया फालतू है.
बड़े प्यार से बोल रहे हैं.
थोड़ा सोच के बोलना पड़ता है कि मतलब कि इसको, मतलब यू हैव टू टेल योर मैसेज ऑल्सो, व्हाई यू थिंक, योर गट फीलिंग कि ये आइडिया विल नॉट वर्क. बट कभी भी ना मैं क्या करता हूँ पता है, जब भी कोई आर्टिस्ट कुछ आइडिया देता है विच आई थिंक माइट नॉट वर्क द बेस्ट, बट आई स्टिल ट्राई एंड प्रोड्यूस इट एंड शो देम दैट व्हाई दिस इज नॉट वर्किंग. आई वुड नेवर गो एंड टेल देम कि ये फालतू आइडिया, मतलब देख लो, सुना देता हूँ बना के, बट ऑप्शन रेडी है अपने पास. तो लाइक माई प्रोसेस इज वेरी डिफरेंट वाइल वर्किंग फॉर म्यूजिक फॉर माई सेल्फ एंड वाइल वर्किंग ऑन म्यूजिक फॉर समवन एल्स. तो बहुत डिफरेंट प्रोसेस.
But essentially it comes still out of you going through your library of accessibility to sample libraries which inspire you to kind of do things whether for yourself or the producer.
Yes.
That's the essence of what it is.
And
right
mostly
now.
sometimes it's just melodies which I record on my WhatsApp to myself. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Sunny.
Yes sir.
तेरा क्या प्रोसेस है?
Actually similar ही प्रोसेस है. मैं भी म्यूजिशियन नहीं हूँ उसके जैसे ही, बट मैं थोड़ा सा स्टोन एज से हूँ. तो प्रोसेस सिमिलर है. व्हाट ही सेड इज़ वेरी राइट. लाइक यू नो, डोंट रिजेक्ट एनी आइडियाज़, ट्राई एंड वर्क ऑन इट, और उसके बाद आप दिखाओ कि क्यों काम नहीं कर रहा है. क्योंकि ये पेपर पे झगड़ा करने का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं. मतलब थियोरी में थर्ड नोट नहीं आना चाहिए, डाल के देखते हैं. यू नो, इट्स एज सिंपल एज दैट. सो मेरा भी प्रोसेस काफ़ी सिमिलर ही है. एज ही सेड, वॉइस नोट्स, नहीं तो सैम्पल, नहीं तो जस्ट अ कॉर्ड प्रोग्रेशन. एंड अभी बिकॉज ऑफ ऑब्वियसली एवरीथिंग गोइंग ऑन वन मशीन, एंड एज अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल नो, मैं तो इन द बॉक्स काफ़ी पहले ही मैं भी मूव कर गया था, बिकॉज आई लव एनालॉग इक्विपमेंट्स, मुझे बहुत पसंद है इनपुट के लिए. आउटपुट मेरे साथ इतने इंसिडेंट्स हुए लाइफ में कि मास्टर बस, मिक्स बस और रियल टाइम में मिक्सिंग के प्रोसेस पे स्पेशली तो मैंने यूज़ करना 2012 में छोड़ दिया था. मैं बोला ये नहीं होगा, मैं एक दिन सुबह उठता हूँ वो कुछ अलग साउंड करना, नहीं ये नहीं हो पाएगा. सो प्रोसेस हाँ सिमिलर ही है मतलब हम दोनों लोग का.
Okay, I think there's a very interesting thing which Sunny pointed out, that to wake up in the morning and to find that your sound has changed because of the analog gear. Either it's a tube thing which is not warmed up enough, or it is a setting on your machine which might have just changed by one small bit, but it changes the sound.
और अगर वो डिटेंटेड
Detented नहीं है तो
तो
specific,
और प्रॉब्लम है. और प्लस एक्चुअली मेरे साथ वही इंसिडेंट हुआ था कि एक हार्डवेयर बस कंप्रेसर नया आदमी यूज़ कर रहा है, मज़ा आ रहा है, सब कुछ मास्टर डिलीवर करने का, एक साइड वाकड़ा हो गया, थोड़ा टेढ़ा हो गया एक दिन उठते ही. फिर नया यूनिट आया, मतलब लकीली शिव सूद आवर फ्रेंड ही सेंड मी अनदर यूनिट की ट्राई दिस आउट. एंड देन एक्चुअली इट डिडंट साउंड द सेम साउंड नहीं किया, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली एवरीथिंग इज ऑलमोस्ट हैंड क्राफ्टेड, सोल्डरिंग भी हाथ से होती है, तो सारे यूनिट्स का साउंड अलग होता है. तो ये प्रोसेस में मुझे फंसना नहीं. और मैंने जिन लोगों के लिए काम किया है उन लोगों का कान बहुत तेज़ है यार, कुछ कर नहीं सकते.
Okay. Meghdeep, your process?
सो मुझे बहुत पहले इस बात का ज्ञान हो चुका था कि देर इज़ नथिंग कॉल्ड आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स मिक्सिंग. ना कंपोज़र के पास टाइम होता है, ना उस एक्टर के पास टाइम होता है जिसको नाचना है गाने पे, ना फिल्म के डायरेक्टर के पास टाइम होता है कि वो शूट मिक्स से अलग जाकर जो फाइनल मिक्स है उससे एक्लेमेटाइज हो पाए. सो आई हैव रियलाइज दैट वॉट एवर यू डू in the process of producing is the final what you want. You know, aapko you need to lock your sound, your tone, your I would also like to bring this to light that mix engineers are not responsible to balance your arrangement. It's the music producer's responsibility to make sure that the violin is playing louder than the viola if intended. So mix engineer is not supposed to level your tracks. Mix engineer is only supposed to chisel out whatever your frequencies are popping out, disturbing the mix. That you may, you know, just if we are living with a person who is a complete idiot, eventually you get used to it. तो mix भी वैसा ही होता है. You get, you know, used to with the frequencies that are popping out, and you stop noticing them after a point, which a mix engineer does. You know, many of you must have noticed your best friends tell you that your relationship is toxic. So, so mix engineer's responsibility is to actually point out the toxic relationship you have with your track. And so yeah, so coming back, I realized this long back that no mix engineer has the time and should be put through the misery of mixing out of the box. So when I am composing, whenever I'm writing, I make sure that my signal chain is the best I could do, because whatever I play and record, because I track a lot of stuff while I'm producing, while I'm composing, I make sure that I track with the exact intended signal chain. And as you earlier mentioned that now earlier I was with the TRS patch bay, but all of my studio is actually a free patch studio. All of the studio is coming back to patch bays. Nothing is hard patched into the interfaces. So I make a chain of, like a custom chain of my own if I want a preamp that goes into a specific compressor EQ. So my tone, my sound is locked. And trust me, what you perform on an intended signal chain and what you process afterwards has a polar difference between the two. Your signal chain, the amount of saturation, the kind of harmonics you're hearing back affects the way you perform. And this kind of enlightenment happened long back. So whenever I'm composing, producing, see, composing is, making music is very organic, and I think there's always a common language that we have while composing. We all compose through our subconscious minds. There is no active thought in it कि मैं ऐसा कर दूंगा तो ऐसा बनेगा. No, it's almost like a free flow. So, but as far as technology is concerned, the technicalities are concerned, I make sure that whatever I record, the sound engineer should not curse me.
Okay, so I think that's a little different from what Kanchan would say as well. Karan would say that I take a sound which I hear
Correct.
Whether it's from Splice, Loop Cloud, or XYZ. He takes the sound and that inspires for him with that sound to go further and build on it. You are saying, I would like to craft that sound which inspires me to actually do it before I
Correct.
just take it like that. Okay, so that's an interesting look at that. Mali, Madam Malavika Manoj, tell us your process.
I think I differ a little bit from everyone on this panel because I'm not a producer, so to speak. I co-produce my music with other producers. But for me, it's mainly the songwriting process that I focus on. Again, it starts with voice notes, and I have a note on my phone called Song Thoughts. So I just collect fragments of ideas and song titles and themes, and I keep building on it. And then when that reaches some sort of critical mass, I open Logic, and it starts with choosing the right tempo and the right key. I'll play around with that for a while, and then I'll put down like a 5-track version of the demo. And if it sounds good like that, that's my litmus test to take it forward and make a song. So when I actually go to a producer, I actually go with a very bare bones demo, and then we work on it because I don't want to commit too early to ideas that I'm not sure how they'll shape up. Yeah, that's my process.
Cool.
इसमें भी तो काफ़ी मतलब टेक्नोलॉजी का है कि अभी फ़ोन पे कर सकते थे. आप कैसे रिकॉर्ड करते थे आपके टाइम पे डेमोज?
Cassette.
कैसेट पे?
So just to
वैसे
tell
ना
you
हो
that
पाए.
I still have some cassettes from my early days of working in the film music, and one of the first films I did with Vishal Bhardwaj was Matches. So I found the other day, I have cassette demos of Vishal singing most of the songs with a harmonium of Matches, Satya, Chachi 420 in his voice. And that's the demo we would take and play to the producer, or if it was the film director, whoever who's going to take the decision, वो कैसेट पे सुनाया जाता था. और जितने भी सिंगर्स थे, all the singers who used to sing, whether it was लता जी, सुरेश वाडकर, आशा जी, everybody, उनको भी एक कैसेट जाता था. And the interesting thing here is that out of all the singers, the only 2 singers, Suresh Wadkar and Lata ji, were the ones who would come back on the day of the recording and with both adab se give your cassette back to the music director, saying ये आपकी चीज़ है, मेरी नहीं है. It's yours, you take it back. कल को कोई बोलेगा गाना निकल गया, मेरे हाथ से नहीं निकला, ये मैंने आपकी कैसेट वापस दे दी, आपकी अमानत है, ये मैं वापस दे रही हूँ. Those 2 singers would always do that. And that was the precedent they'd been following for a long time since cassettes came about. So we used to record stuff on cassettes, kuch bhi idea. Nadeem Shravan, out of them, Mr. Nadeem, he had cassette Walkman jo hote the recorders lying around his house at various places. In his bedroom, even one in his bathroom, even one in the studio. Jab bhi koi idea, he would grab one or cassette padhi and he would say, 27th May 2017 and ye gana hai. And he would record that, sing that phrase, whether it was a mukhda or an antara, into that cassette and mark it. So then he would go back after a month, consolidate all that, is cassette mein ye aise, and then he would make a file on it. So agar kisi producer ko koi gana chahiye, he would go back to that file, go back to that cassette and get that out. So that was the process. There was no other way to record it.
अभी तो मतलब बहुत easy हो गया था. This is something we forget about technology, like जो advance हुआ है, like we just take it for granted.
You take it for
granted. For sure.
Right. No, Mr. A.R. Rahman does that a lot as well. He's traveling, ideas are coming to him. Voice notes are his baby. I mean, the first thing he comes back from a travel is dump all his voice notes onto a machine and backs it up. That's the first thing. I mean, he comes at 2 in the night, he'll go to the studio and say, इसको backup करो पहले. Because that's his पूंजी ना, वो तो investment है. तो वो तो backup करके, then sometime during the week, he will go through it and figure out which is the one which excites him, which he likes, and maybe make something out of it. So technology has made this hugely easy for all of us to kind of do these kind of starting ideas, things which were earlier very difficult to encapsulate. Remember, you had to learn how to write music if you wanted to remember an idea earlier. आपको music लिखना पढ़ना आना चाहिए था, whether it is Indian or Western. And then only you could remember कि मेरी tune क्या थी. नहीं तो भूल गए. So that was the way it was, done to cassettes, which made it hugely easy for everybody to record stuff. And of course, CDs, CDR were there, but they were not that easy. That's why cassettes survived. And the moment the recording with computers came, it kind of took over everything. And of course, now mobile phones, all our lives are in mobile phones right now. So, okay, that's the creative process part of it. Now we come to a little bit more in terms of production part of it. out of the panel of four, three of them here right now are music producers themselves. And so I just wanted to ask all of you is, how are you using technology in the production part of it? For example, in terms of using music and music instruments. If I may just go back, we used to actually have live players who would actually play an each an instrument, who had invested a whole bunch of time in learning their craft, whether it's a guitar player or even a jaltarang player. I just found out somebody in Pune, the lady who plays jaltarang, and she's still putting that art forward. So everybody in their instruments practiced it, made it perfect so that they could be allowed to come in and play. But now things are different. So I just want each one of you to kind of highlight that part of it, the instrumentation part of it. For you, how does that happen with new technology? And maybe this time we can begin with Malvika as well. When you create your song, I know you play guitar and you play. By the way, she learned to play guitar because she thought it was really cool to play a guitar. Otherwise, she had learned piano for a long time. So now she plays both. So for you, what is it like? It's your guitar and your actual instrument which inspires you, and that's when takes you on to the production?
Yeah, for me, I have two types of songs. The ones that I write with the guitar and ones that I write with keys. And so both those songs take on a very different process. Obviously, with keys songs, it's easier to go straight to Logic and start making something. With guitar, it's more led by the rhythm. Then you have to actually plug everything in and track a basic guitar take of you singing and playing the song, and then you add to it. So depending on the instrument of choice, I think
But for you, it's still those two instruments which kind of kickstart the whole thing.
But for actually, I'm quite a groove-based writer. I feel like I think I start groove-wise. Like the first thing I do on Logic when I'm demoing is actually the groove.
So how do you find that? Where do you go and find a groove?
Where do I find the groove? I mouth drum. And then I try and replicate whatever I can mouth drum on Logic.
Or you should get the new Vocalier doubler.
Get a beatbox.
Maybe I should try.
That doubler thing she should get, which now
cool,
allows you to kind of say anything into your mic, which they have, and that translates into a sound. So if you have a saxophone line, you just sing a saxophone line with your mouth, and it translates into a saxophone sound. Same for drums. Maybe, I think it's on sale right now at about $100. It used to be about $250 at one point.
Are you sponsored?
Nope, but we can look into it. We should ask them. So what about you, Karan?
The question is basically my process now, like again, in terms of technology, when I'm starting off, मेरा बहुत ADHD process है, honestly बोलो तो, like it's not at all ऐसा कि okay सुबह उठा अभी गाना बनाऊंगा ऐसा जब भी आइडिया तभी मैं घुस जाता हूँ स्टूडियो में और प्लस टेक्नोलॉजी वाइज मेरा लिटरली लैपटॉप ने बचा लिया है भाई मेरे को ऑनेस्टली मैं लैपटॉप पे ही सब कुछ बनता है अभी लकीली थोड़ा बहुत पैसा आ रहा तो खरीद लिया सब प्लगइन्स पहले तो सब क्रैक पे चलता था पहले जब स्टार्ट किया था यहाँ पे आता था मैं 2012-13 में यहाँ पे आके सारे प्लगइन्स देख के जाता था फिर घर पे आके क्रैक मारता था But yeah, like I remember coming to this place just like you guys sitting here at every conference. Sir, के भी conferences देखा हूँ मैं यहाँ पे. So seeing how much it has gone from like मैं वो बल्कि Pentium 4 पे चालू किया था मैंने और अभी M4 पे आ गए हम लोग MacBook के. Like it's so powerful and मेरे लिए technology का सबसे best चीज़ है कि I don't like to make music always in the studio. I would like to take my laptop कहीं भी जाओ खोल के उधर बैठ के music बनाने बैठ जाओ. So for me technology has enabled that. Like I don't have to be in one space.
Right to one place.
हाँ, yeah. And also like because I'm not using a lot of instruments ऐसा कुछ सब in the box हो रहा है. But मेरे पास ऐसे standby पे है लोग. जैसे कि मेरे को मालूम है कि मेरे को गिटार लाइन चाहिए तो बिली को कॉल करूँगा बोलेगा भाई प्लीज भेज दे कुछ तो
But again that's happening like you're telling him and he's recording something and sending it to you.
वही we're not in the same room also like वैसे so I have a lot of I would suggest like if you're how many producers you have by the way put your hands up and how many songwriters तो कौन सा मतलब like everyone's on their laptops right और एनालॉग वाले कितने लोग हैं एनालॉग वाले कोई नहीं है सर एक है oh shit okay mix hybrid बट वही देखना है तो मतलब आई थिंक सो एवरीवनस ऑन देयर लैपटॉप्स मैं तो लग रहा है अभी पीसी भी लोग कम यूज़ करने लगे अभी लैपटॉप्स पे शिफ्ट हो रहा है एंड I really like the whole feeling of portability with music कि मतलब if I'm going playing a show उसके बाद कुछ आइडिया आ गया उधर बैठ के खोल के गाना बना दिया कुछ आइडिया कर दिया so I really love the freedom which technology has given me to like make music anywhere without thinking कि okay अब मेरे को ये गाना बनाना है मेरे को ये म्यूजिशियन को बुलाना पड़ेगा ये कीबोर्डिस्ट को बुलाना पड़ेगा और ये वो लिरिक राइटर को बुलाना पड़ेगा लिरिक्स भी चैट जीपीटी दे देता है बेसिक तो आजकल उसके बाद आगे का बना लेंगे बट बेसिक आइडिया बनाने के लिए अभी कोई नहीं रोक रहा है लाइक इफ समवन इज टेलिंग इट मेकिंग म्यूजिक इन टुडेज टाइम इज डिफिकल्ट दे आर जस्ट लेजी सो डोंट बी लेजी जस्ट गो फॉर इट
Okay, so I was just, while he was talking about this, of course, my mind was going back to the time where if you had to make music, you had to book a studio. There was no choice. आपको एक स्टूडियो महंगा सा बुक करना पड़ेगा. You have to book musicians, and then you could make even a demo. Forget about making a record. Demo के लिए भी आपको musician चाहिए और एक स्टूडियो चाहिए. That means खर्चा. That means you have to invest in that before you can even go and make a song. And of course, releasing was another ball game. Labels involved. You couldn't do it on your own. And today he's saying he just takes his laptop wherever he goes and he makes music. So that's the kind of thing we have to go back and listen and just think that's the trajectory, that's where we've come from where to where, and that's quite commendable right now actually. Meghdeep, तेरा क्या process है? Laptop या?
So, so as you know that I am into parallels. One is where I compose or produce for films, and then there's my independent music side. So when I'm composing for my own this thing, I first make up my mind as of what do I want the song to be about. If I want it to be a melody based, and also I've been very proactively pushing Indian classical based music out there, because in my opinion what makes us as international artists is when we do our Indian music. That makes us international for the West. So I've been constantly making efforts to do rag-based music, which is not indigestible to the audiences, but also packaged in a very modern production. So when I am, I've recently developed a stream of music called devotional pop, where I blend bhakti sangeet, spiritual music with modern pop production. And so I decide whether I want the song to be a melody-based song or do I want it to be a production-based song, because there are songs which are thoroughly dependent on a riff and a beat. And there are songs which are very seriously lyrical and melodious. So when I know that I have to compose a bhajan, which is very melody driven, I compose like there is no arrangement. I make sure that I crack a melody and I do not limit myself to an instrument. Like everybody, like we have voice notes, we have, so I'm always around, my phone is always around with me, and I make sure that I track the melody, I track those phrases right away, dumping the ideas. And I wait for that melody to stay with me. If it stays, it's there, you know. Be it whatever complicated rag, whatever it is, but if it stays with me, I know that it will stay with the audiences. But when there is a production-based track, usually, you know, the beat kind of songs happen to me when I'm driving, when I'm listening to a random playlist, and a random song hits you, like it stays with you. It's like one interesting friend that you've just met and you want to hang out with that person even more. So that is when I get hooked to that song, the beat of it, for example, and I compose on it while, you know, and now we have the stem splitter to our, you know, so I think that's a great way, you know, where if you want to compose to a beat and compose to a vibe, I think technology has empowered all songwriters today to not imagine a beat in their head, a reference beat, but actually to have the beat to compose
available to you
by
right
splitting. So I think it's very subjective to what do I want to say with my music, you know.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, Sunny.
एक तो ये आदमी 75,000 इंस्ट्रूमेंट बजाता है सबसे पहले. गिटार चाहिए, हाँ हाँ मैं एक सेकंड बजा, अच्छा ये हाँ ओके ओके, अच्छा सिंथ है, रेडी लाइक अजय. सो सी प्रोसेस मोर और लेस आई थिंक सबका सेम ही है, बट वो चेंज हो जाता है कि आप किसके लिए काम कर रहे हो, आप खुद के लिए काम कर रहे हो या आप किसी और के लिए काम कर रहे हो. तो एक चीज़ विच आई ऑलवेज ट्राई एंड डू. अगर किसी और का भी गाना है, मेरा भी गाना है, अगर प्रोड्यूस कर रहा हूँ या मिक्स कर रहा हूँ, तो मुझे सबसे पहले अपना कोरस या ड्रॉप या हुक और ड्रॉप वो ख़त्म करना है, चाहे मैं प्रोड्यूस कर रहा हूँ या कंपोज कर रहा हूँ, बिकॉज दैट इज़ माई हाई पॉइंट ऑफ द सॉन्ग. सो व्हेन यू फिनिश दैट यू कैन फिनिश अ सॉन्ग मच ईजियर, बिकॉज तुम रिकॉल वैल्यू बना सकते हो कि हुक पे एक चीज़ आ रहा है और वो शुरू में भी स्टार्ट हो सकता है. और ये सब जब हम लोग शुरू से स्टार्ट करते हैं तो थोड़ा सा लाइक दिस होल थिंग व्हेन पीपल आस्क यू कि अरे मैं बहुत ज़्यादा एलिमेंट्स ऐड कर देता हूँ, फिर उसके बाद तुम अटैच हो जाते हो उसके साथ, फिर उसके बाद वो तुम्हारा बेबी बन जाता है, फिर तुम डिटैच नहीं कर पाते उसके साथ. तो वो थोड़ा सा डिटैचमेंट के लिए ये प्रोसेस मेरे लिए वर्क करता है. बट इन जनरल व्हाट केजे सर इज आस्क्ड इज अबाउट VST इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स एंड स्टफ. तो VST इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स यार अभी ना ये ऑनगोइंग प्रोसेस है. मतलब सो आई स्टार्टेड बैक थोड़ा टाइम पहले 2001 में स्टार्ट किया था, और वहाँ पे व्हाट केजे सर सेट कैसेट वाले डेमोज, मैं भी लकीली हिस्सा हूँ कि किसी लोगों का कैसेट वाले डेमोज का. और फिर म्यूजिशियन सारे साथ में एक बड़े रूम में बैठते थे, कंपोज़र हारमोनियम या कीबोर्ड या गिटार के साथ, लिरिसिस्ट वहाँ पे, डायरेक्टर वहाँ पे, एक्टर वहाँ पे, और सब लोग एक बार लॉक करके ही निकलते थे वहाँ से. फाइनलाइज एक रिकॉर्डिंग डेट जो कि डिपेंड्स ऑन लाइक से इफ़ यू वांट टू गो टू समवन लाइक दमन सूद, तो यू टेक हिज डेट फर्स्ट दैन टेकिंग एवरीवन एल्सेस डेज, राइट? ऐसे ही बात. तो प्रोसेस वैसा वाला था. फिर VST इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स आए और उसके बाद फिर अभी AI आया. अभी क्या होना कि AI तब तक ठीक था जब तक वोकलिस्ट लोग को इफेक्ट नहीं कर रहा था. ठीक है, जैसे वोकलिस्ट लोगों को इफेक्ट करना चालू हुआ, सबको हो गया AI गंदा है, AI खराब है. बट हमने एक्चुअली बहुत सारे जॉब्स VST इंस्ट्रूमेंट के साथ ऑलरेडी ले लिए. इट्स नॉट लाइक इट्स समथिंग न्यू, वी आर ऑलवेज डूइंग इट. तो अभी VST इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स आए, लोगों ने बोला अरे सेशन म्यूजिशियंस को बुलाना बंद कर दिया, विच इज़ 100% राइट. बट क्या हुआ ना, एक टाइम के बाद ना लोग बोर हो जाते हैं थोड़ा, तो फिर उनको लगता है कि एक और बंदा चाहिए म्यूज़िक में वाइब करने के लिए. और उस टाइम में तुमको एक म्यूजिशियन दोस्त की ज़रूरत होती है जिसको तुमने पिछले 3 साल से इग्नोर किया है. कि अरे यार ये गिटार बजाने के लिए वापस, अरे यार इसका ये. सो यू गेट बोर्ड ऑफ द प्रोसेस. सिमिलर थिंग इज़ विथ AI ऑल्सो, कि तुम कितना करोगे, तुम कर रहे हो, तुम टूल के जैसा यूटिलाइज करो. एंड आई हैव बीन हाईली स्पीकिंग इन सपोर्ट ऑफ AI टू टेक इट एज अ टूल एंड टू नॉट रन अवे फ्रॉम इट. बिकॉज तुम किसी चीज़ से अगर दूर भागते हो तो तुम उसको सीखने की कोशिश नहीं करते हो, और जब तुम सीखने की नहीं कोशिश करते हो, कोई और ऑलरेडी कर रहा होता है, फिर वो तुम्हारा सब कुछ लेके जाएगा. तो इन जनरल बहुत सारी चीज़ें हो गई है, लाइक लॉट ऑफ रेवोल्यूशन इन जनरल हैज़ हैपेंड इन टर्म्स ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी. एंड आई थिंक एवरीथिंग इज़ राइट, देयर इज़ नथिंग रॉन्ग. कुछ गलत नहीं है, कुछ सही नहीं है. अभी गलत सही का डिसीजन करने वाले हम लोग नहीं है, वो बाद में होगा, आफ्टर लाइफ प्रोसेस.
Okay, I think now we should just shift gears and go into what maybe everybody is waiting to talk about. That's AI. I think 99% of the people are here for that. So just now back to everybody is like, okay, AI is here, and like you very rightly said, it started with the voice thing, but I think it started much before as well, also in production.
करेक्ट. वॉइस थिंग के बाद लोगों ने रिटेलिएट करना चालू किया. अरे
So it came more into focus because of that.
इंस्ट्रूमेंटलिस्ट लोग को सेशन नहीं मिलेगा, चलेगा, बट वॉइस कैसे कर सकते हैं?
So just again to recap that when first computers came in, and when samplers actually, more than computers, when first samplers came in, there was this huge talk that musicians are going to become redundant and now samplers are going to take over. I just remember my first introduction to sampler was in 1985. And I was blown away that you could be playing a conga and a bonga on a keyboard. मतलब मुझसे वो डाइजेस्ट ही नहीं हो रहा था कि कोई ड्रम और परकशन साउंड कीबोर्ड पे बजा रहा है. तो वो अपने आप में एक इतना बड़ा हिट था उस टाइम पे जब मैंने पहली बार सुना. EMU का एमुलेटर सैम्पलर था और वो कमाल के साउंड थे, और वो कोई ड्रम्स बजा रहा है कीबोर्ड पे, तो ये तो मतलब मेरे को एक हफ्ता लग गया उसको डाइजेस्ट करने में. So then people said कि अब musicians will not be there. So yes, there was a dip in musicians being asked to come for sessions. But like Sunny said, you want to at the end of the day, आप कितना कर लोगे मशीन के साथ? तो आपको लगता है कि मेरे को कोई एक और इंसान चाहिए जो मेरे आइडियाज़ के साथ रेजोनेट करे, कुछ फीडबैक दे, कुछ लड़े मेरे साथ, कुछ करे, आपको चाहिए वो. So musicians started coming back again and people were in demand and good musicians are still in demand. ऐसी बात नहीं है. So that came back. Now with AI coming in, I think now we are going to go through a similar phase of this huge talk about that it's going to take away jobs, it's going to take away careers, it's going to kill work and all that. But I think it's a graph, like with fashion, like with everything, it's a cyclic, it comes and it goes. My opinion is that it's still going to, the value for musician is not going to go less anymore. A musician who spent years training in their craft, that will still remain. Yes, people will use, like a lot of people in Hollywood, including Hans Zimmer, John Newton, they all do that. They actually make all their sounds through samplers and VST devices, and then they go back and replicate or replace them with live musicians. तो दिखाने के लिए आपको एक डेमो देने के लिए मेरे पास ये है, आपको अच्छा लग रहा है, अप्रूव हो गया, and now we get the real musicians to come and talk. I think that will still happen. But AI is at a point today which is scary. It's fascinating for me personally, both at the same time. The kind of advancement that we're seeing, and right now, I don't know if Ravi is here from Waves, but Waves just launched this new thing. Oh, he's there, Ravi's there. Maybe you can talk to him about it. Illusion, is that's the name. I think it's Illusion and Gen together. Illusion. The new Gen.
I love you, Jen.
I love you, Jen. So that is again a chat GTP kind of based app, which you type in what you want as an instrument, as a sound, and it gives that back to you, which earlier other people had been doing as well. And now Waves has brought it to a new level altogether. It's just been released. It's out there. You can download it, trial it, run it. So I am imagining, like I think in there they have it, like I'm imagining an entire choir, like a gospel choir singing pizza. I think that's one of their demos there. Pizza word, the entire choir, I'm imagining that. Just like in photos, I'm imagining a dog going through like a Mets ka abhi recently thing which happened, you know, my dog going for that. It's your imagination which is driving the thing, and the thing is giving you back either a photo or a music, what you have in your head. You don't have to go finding it anywhere. जैसे ये पहले करता स्प्लाइस जाना है, लूप क्लाउड जाना है, या उनको कोई इंस्ट्रूमेंटेशन के लिए किसी म्यूजिशियन को पकड़ना है. अभी आपके दिमाग में जो है वो आप प्रकट करें, बात करें, and they will generate it for you and give it back to you, even though it might not be humanly possible to do it. So we are exploring that realm right now. So my question to this entire panel is right now, if any of you are using the new AI tools, how are you incorporating them into your production, creative workflow? And Sunny is super excited about it, I know.
मैं 2 पैनल ऑल अबाउट म्यूजिक में कर चुका हूँ AI के ऊपर 2 साल. तो मैं वो थोड़ा सा अर्ली अडॉप्टर टाइप का आदमी हूँ थोड़ा सा, और फिर लॉकडाउन में बहुत टाइम मिल गया. तो बिफोर एवरीथिंग केम देयर इज अ थिंग कॉल्ड एज सिंथ जीपीटी. आई डोंट नो इफ यू गाइस हैव हर्ड ऑफ इट. सो सिंथ जीपीटी वाज द फर्स्ट वन कि जहाँ पे तुमको जो टाइप का टोन चाहिए वो टाइप करो और इट विल प्रेजेंट यू विद समथिंग, देन प्रेजेंट यू मोर, प्रेजेंट यू मोर, प्रेजेंट यू मोर, प्रेजेंट यू मोर. And the idea for me with AI generated tones is to not create a human like sound. Is to create sounds जो पहले कभी सुने नहीं है. अगर मुझे गिटार का साउंड चाहिए तो मैं भाई, मेरे बहुत अच्छे अच्छे दोस्त हैं, मैं बुला लूँगा. और आई एम श्योर जितने लोग बोलते हैं कि ओह वी कांट अफोर्ड अ म्यूजिशियन, सबके पास एक दोस्त ऐसा होगा हु इज़ रेडी टू डू इट फॉर देम एंड से कि चल भाई तुम्हें कोई कॉफ़ी पिला देना. मतलब आई एम सेइंग बेसिक एफर्ट वाइज, राइट? So in terms of all these tone generations, it is something else, क्योंकि AI ना भी समझ नहीं पाता है सही से आपको. थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा उसको. मतलब थोड़ा चैट जीपीटी के साथ महीनों महीनों बात करने का, चैट जीपीटी बताओ मुझे मेरे बारे में, तब वो बोलता है, फिर भी गलत बोलती है बहुत सारी चीज़ें. एंड चैट जीपीटी एंड ऑल ऑल्सो hallucinate. They hallucinate. Chat GPT has lied to me about something for almost 22 hours. That I'm rendering, I'm editing, I'm rendering, I'm editing, and then I just asked it, why are you lying? And it's like, I'm really sorry to disappoint you. And I'm like, come on, तुम मेरे असिस्टेंट के ऐसे क्यों बिहेव कर रहे हो? ठीक है कि गाना भेज नहीं भेज पाया. तो ये यूजेज वाइज जो है मेरा वो है कि try and find as many as unique tones as possible. And the song generation has become crazy good right now, which is your Suno 4.5 is just gone nuts with it. 4 ही आया था तो मैं वाह, और ये तो मैंने बोला अब तो कुछ नहीं बोलूँगा. AI जनरेटिव म्यूजिक में सिर्फ एक प्रॉब्लम है कि तुम अप्रिशिएट किसको करोगे. तुम बोलोगे कि गाना बहुत अच्छा गाया है, सुनो ने या किसने, you know, it's a personal thing, but where it can help, where I'm also using it, when people say कि you get stuck, right? So all your these, most of your AI tools like Suno especially has this function called as upload. So you can upload your track, you can ask it to give you ideas, and sometimes it helps कि तुम्हारे पास एक मुखड़ा ऑलरेडी बना हुआ है, तुमको कोरस बना हुआ है और तुमको एक चाहिए क्रॉस. It is basically like having a friend who can help you write a little bit of a melody, right? That also it helps in. So you can upload your track, you can also ask it to extend the track to like whatever structurally and all these things. And that's what, as I said before, there's no stopping this. We can't stop this. There are people who are already releasing AI generated music on Spotify and actually making some money out of it. किसको किसको रोकेंगे हम सबको नहीं रोक सकते, तो उसको टूल के जैसा यूज़ करो. इसका एक जिसको जिसको चाहिए मुझे प्लीज़ इंस्टाग्राम पे मैसेज करना. मैंने सुनो का एक चीट कोड शीट रेडी किया है, ठीक है, जहाँ पे तुम उसको बोल सकते हो कि यहाँ पे मुझे चिपमंक सैम्पल चाहिए तो वो एक्चुअली चिपमंक सैम्पल देता है. वहाँ पे अगर चाहिए कि इंटरलूड में बिल्डअप चाहिए तो वो एक्चुअली बिल्डअप करके देगा. एंड समटाइम्स आई जस्ट जनरेट इट एंड जस्ट टेक द आइडिया फ्रॉम इट कि अच्छा ठीक है, पुट अ मेलेडी इन इट. लाइक यू कैन पुट योर वॉइस नोट इफ यू आर स्टक विथ कॉर्ड्स, just put a voice note and execute an instrumental on top of it, and sometimes it actually gives you wonderful chordal ideas. और एक गाना था मेरा, उसमें मुझे ना एक थोड़ा सा detuned / tonal like Middle Eastern kind of progression चाहिए, microtonal, not detuned is not there, microtonal, and I just couldn't figure it out because I was like कि ये तो humanly थोड़ा मुश्किल है, like you know I'll have to call someone from there and it did give me an option. Then I actually called my friend and said कि भाई ऐसा वाला option है, we'll have to do this like a little microtonal thing and all, but this is the idea. At least I could explain it to someone, you know. Otherwise it's very hard. And the idea of working with musicians is also that कि you ask them to execute what is there in your mind. It might not be 100%, and that's the beauty of it. Like 100% नहीं है, 70% आ गया. And I kind of feel sad for people who will put in a VST instrument of a guitar, like native instruments or whatever, और उसके बाद ना गिटारिस्ट फ्रेंड को बुलाएंगे और बोलेंगे बजा, और वो बेचारा बजा रहा है, स्लाइड वाइड कर रहा है, बोले नहीं नहीं चैचू चैचू साउंड बहुत आ रहा है. एक तो पहला दिख मेरा गिटार कितना क्लीन है, तेरे गिटार में डर्ट है. और हम ऐसे टाइम पे हैं अभी जहाँ पे हम गाना फुल करने के लिए नॉइजेस डाल रहे हैं कि हम विनाइल क्रैकल डाल रहे हैं, वी आर पुटिंग इन ऑल सॉर्ट ऑफ नॉइजेस,
सैचुरेशन डाल रहे हैं
और नॉइज करने के लिए. और उस टाइम हमको ये प्रॉब्लम है कि मेरा लाइव म्यूजिशियन वाला जो दोस्त है ना, उसके गिटार से नॉइज आ रहा है, फ्लूट में हवा का आवाज आ रहा है, मतलब वुडविंड इंस्ट्रूमेंट है यार. ये कैसा इतनी नादानी क्या है मतलब. सो विद इन टर्म्स ऑफ एआई और इन टर्म्स ऑफ वर्किंग म्यूजिशियन, यू हैव टू ऑलवेज listen to a lot of music, that will help, I think. Yeah, that's it.
मेरे को सनी की इस बात से याद आया कि there was a session that was happening with singer Hariharan, and he was singing in a studio with an engineer, with a young guy, and when he sang that song, he came out and asked that guy कि so how was it? So that engineer looked at him and said, sir बहुत बढ़िया आ रहा था, सिर्फ एक ही प्रॉब्लम आ रही थी. क्या आ रहा था? आपकी सांस बहुत आ रही थी. सॉरी लुक्ड एट हिम, भैया सांस है तो मैं जिंदा हूँ गा रहा हूँ, नहीं तो वो भी निकाल लोगे तुम क्या. तो ये समझ की बात है. It is kind of trying to understand what is required, what is not required. Sunny is right. We are now at a stage where we are actually adding noise. So if you see a lot of your plugins have already this feature, and I think Mr. Alan Meyerson had this huge rant which he went on internet and social media about that all plugins should by default not go to noise generation. Because a lot of plugins by default actually have that noise generation built in. And now if you actually, way to find out is, if you don't play any of your track and you put an RTA analyzer on your mix bus, you will see a lot of things moving at the bottom, and that you know some plugin is creating that noise. So you have to, if you don't want it, you have to actually go and switch it off, because by default it will remain on. But that's what the plugin manufacturers think. That's what maybe people want these days, to bring that old noise back. Maybe bring that tape saturation. That's why there's a huge splurge of tape saturators, clippers out there in the market right now, and people are using them traditional way and non-traditional way as well, because people who don't understand it actually just slap it on and crank it and hope for the best as well. Well, if it works for you, why not? I mean, I'm not nothing against that, but it's just that that's available to you right now. So I'm going to jump from Sunny to Mr. Karan, who is also in a similar boat with technology. So what AI plugins are you using?
तो लाइक एआई में मैंने मेन चीज़ यूज़ किया है बेसिकली टेक्निकली फॉर ऑडिशनिंग, कि अगर प्रोड्यूसर ने बोला है कि ये गाना, मतलब प्रोड्यूसर इज नॉट श्योर कि किसके आवाज़ में सही लगेगा, तो मैं मेरे दोस्त से गवाता हूँ और वो एआई में उसने टाइम स्पेंड किया है तो वो अलग अलग सिंगर के वॉइस में मेरे को भेज देता है, फिर सब सुनते हैं हम लोग कौन सा रहता है, तो प्रोड्यूसर का भी टाइम बचता है और मेरा आर्टिस्ट का भी टाइम बच रहा है टेक्निकली। अभी अगर मैं आर्टिस्ट को बोलूँ कि आप एक रिकॉर्ड करके दे दो मेरे को, सुन के देखते अच्छा लगा तो सिलेक्ट होगा, तो अभी मेरे को वो बोलना नहीं पड़ता है कि अगर अच्छा लगा तो सिलेक्ट होगा, अगर उसको पसंद आ गया तो ही जाके मैं रिकॉर्ड कराऊंगा, वैसा वाला सिचुएशन है अभी।
So based on that, that's when you call the singer after you've made this
नो नो नो, सो रफ जो बेसिक रिकॉर्डिंग है, जिस दो मेरा दोस्त ही गाता है, केशव वो गा लेगा, उसके बाद विल गो एंड पुट इट टू थ्रू एआई, लाइक जैमेबल हो गया जहाँ पे वी हैव ऑल दीज मॉड्यूल्स ऑफ डिफरेंट सिंगर्स। या सबसे ज़्यादा आपको अरिजीत सर का ही मिलेगा उधर टॉप पे। क्या बात। तो आई थिंक सो इन अ वे कि अगर चलो वो तो बहुत बड़े लेवल के सिंगर हो गए, ऑफकोर्स उनसे डेमो मांगने जाएंगे तो कहाँ ही होगा कुछ काम, अपना आगे बढ़ेगा ही नहीं काम, बट एटलीस्ट प्रोड्यूसर या उनको कन्विंस करने के लिए द पीपल आर पुटिंग मनी इन योर म्यूजिक, अगर जैसे मूवी का प्रोड्यूसर होगा जो भी, उनको कन्विंस करने के लिए ये गाने पे ये आवाज़ सही लगेगा, तो यू कैन मेक अ डेमो कि भाई 1 मिनट का बना के सुना दिया कि ऐसा लगेगा गाना।
But I have a question here. When you play it to a producer, do you tell him it's an AI or do you just keep quiet and ask them to figure it out?
बोल देता हूँ, उनको समझ मेरा दोस्त तो नहीं है अरिजीत, तो फिर दिया नहीं होगा, बट एक बार ऐसा हुआ है, एक सिंगर थे उनका मैंने हमने फुल गाना वाना डेमो बनाया था, तो उनका एआई यूज़ करके बनाया था और फिर उन्होंने अप्रूव हो गया, रिकॉर्ड कराया, बट शूट के दिन मेरे को थोड़ा सा एक और एक्स्ट्रा पार्ट चाहिए था, तो एक हमिंग मेलोडी का था, तो वो हमिंग मेलोडी मैंने मेरे दोस्त से करा के ऐसे करके गाने में डाल दिया, शूट पे गए, सिंगर को पता भी नहीं चला कि उसका आवाज़ नहीं है, तो उसको याद भी नहीं था कि उसने टेक दिया है कि नहीं दिया है, तो मतलब काम कर लेता है।
नहीं, the other thing which you said, I think taking off that is also very good. Sometimes when you want to figure out what key you want to sing it in, अगर आपको बी में गाना है, बी फ्लैट में गाना है, कहाँ सूट करेगा, किस टेम्पो में सूट करेगा, समटाइम ऑफ कोर्स एबल्टन वगैरह के साथ नाउ इट्स वेरी इजी, यू जस्ट ड्रैग द टेम्पो एंड द होल थिंग शिफ्ट्स. But suppose you are in some other DAW which might not be so good with pitch shifting, then this is a very good medium to use to figure out which key to sing, what tempo to sing and stuff like that. I think it's a great exercise. Otherwise, like you said, we had to मुझे तो जहाँ तक याद है हमारे केके को हमें बुलाना पड़ता था कि भैया आके ज़रा हमारे लिए डेमो के लिए प्रोड्यूसर के लिए आके गा, और उसके साथ बैठ के 1 घंटा पहले यही होता था कि कौन से सुर में गाना है, कौन से टेम्पो में गाना है, ऊपर का कौन सा नोट लगेगा, तो 1 घंटा तो इसी में जाता था सिंगर के साथ. And we used to actually call actual singers to come and do that and play the song for the producer or the singer or for the film director. तो वो गाने उनके साथ हम पूरे म्यूजिशियन के साथ बैठ के गाते थे. आई थिंक सनी इज ऑल्सो alluding to that, कि we used to sing प्रोड्यूसर के लिए वो गाना, and then it would get decided yes or no. So now this thing, of course,
I think it saves time for the artists also, and वो एक होप रहता है बहुत सारे सिंगर लोग, मेरे को ये गाने में शायद मेरे को चांस मिल जाएगा, उनको फिर जाके बोलना नहीं पड़ता, नहीं वो एक्चुअली किसी और का आवाज़ सिलेक्ट हो गया, तो पहले ही डिसाइड कर सकते हैं प्रोड्यूसर को बोल के ये वो ऑप्शन है, आपको कौन सा अच्छा लग रहा है.
But this actually, from your experience, is really good that it's convincing to a large extent. I mean, it's really good.
I'm not very sure about it because मैं तो सिंगर नहीं हूँ, मेरे को तो पता नहीं कैसा फील होता है. You could say better, like
Mali, what about you?
if I made a song and I layered your voice with your own AI, like your voice ka AI, will you be okay with it or would you want to sing it yourself?
I mean, I would want to sing it myself. But yeah, if it's a small job, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, like if you're traveling and I have to release the song tomorrow, I just...
If it saves me a trip to the studio sometimes.
See, Mumbai traffic, of course.
Yeah.
It's gonna work. AI supports Mumbai traffic.
Mumbai supports AI.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, Mali, for you, I mean, have you tried any of these new tools?
I haven't dabbled in all of these, but one thing I did recently was use a stem splitter, which I had never done. My first EP, we lost all of the stems and the original files, and for years I didn't have the stems to my own music. And thanks to AI, I was able to. I mean, it wasn't a perfect job, but it was close enough.
No, it's pretty good. Some of them are mind-boggling, I will say it myself. I've done that as well, where we've taken stereo tracks, and okay, also what happened was surprisingly with Mr. A.R. Rahman, when I was traveling for live shows, some of his early movies, he didn't have any stems. Zero. Because they were all done on half-inch or 1" 16 track, and that time they didn't think of taking stems, and it was still locked in that, and hard drives were still new, so we didn't have that. So some of his early songs don't have stems. They don't have even -1, some of them. And we had to perform those with, he wanted certain things from that original soundtrack. And we had no way to go about it. So what happened was in the backhand that we actually played the whole song, the original stereo mix. And through EQ, we cut out certain elements which was not required and played them along with the whole band. That was the only way to go around it. And now today, you feed it a stereo mix and you get the stems that you want. You can say, I want a bass, I want a guitar, I want drums. You can even separate the drums between kick, snare, hi-hat and stuff like that. So the technology is that advanced that it allows you to, like she said, you get back your original stuff that you are lost somewhere down the line or you missed doing it because technology was not available at that point of time. Just note at the bottom that recently I was talking to Mr. Bhaskar from Dolby, and he just shared with me that Apple has actually rejected a whole bunch of immersive mixes created from these kind of stems. Their technology figured out that you had taken a stereo mix and got stems out and you use that to make an immersive mix. So that technology now Apple is using to kind of reject immersive mixes, Dolby mixes, which are being uploaded. So that's also happening right now. People are getting smarter about it and actually working around ways to do this. Spotify, I think, is just going to, at the end of the year, launch a thing whereby they can take your song and stem it and actually give it to DJs and remixers to kind of remix your song. And maybe, I'm not sure the ethical part of it, or with your permission or not, but that's something that Spotify and most other platforms are working on. How can they monetize your song more than just the stereo mix? I think that's what they're looking at, which is where this technology comes in. So, yeah. Meghdeep, your view on this?
I feel the whole purpose of technology has been in music, has been about achieving something which is close to the real, be it the VST market, be it the sample market, and now be it the AI domain. Everything strives to sound real. Everything strives
to emulate what is
to
already
emulate
there.
what we, even when we say plugins, or even plugins, as we just said, that the manufacturers are actually inducing noise in it to give it the feel of an actual hardware. All of these efforts are focused towards emulating something that could actually sound close to real. So it's almost like buying a painting which is computer printed, and where you can actually go up to the artist, to the painter, and buy the painting directly from the painter. You choose to print it out and hang it on your wall in your home, and both are fine. And that computer printed painting is VST, is AI. It's completely the prerogative of the artist and the people involved. However, AI, I see it again as a threat more to the VST industry instead of the artist industry, because AI is getting closer to what's real. So essentially, it's replacing VSTs, in my opinion. And also, it's a great opportunity for Indian composers and producers, because VSTs still can't, you have to take a lot of effort to program a sarangi part on a VSTi. You still ये जो गमक
और मींड जितनी है मुश्किल है
मींड कितनी है और कितने कण स्वर लगे हैं, ये सारी चीजें, it's still quite near to impossible. Very, very laborious work to be done when it's done in a VST. But if a singer or a composer sings a particular phrase and trains the AI to sound like a sarangi, we can actually crack it. So, and of course, the threat number 2 is to the budgets of the industry, because just like VSTIs, brought in the possibility of not having live musicians, VSTIs are also now cutting out, AI is also now cutting out on having producers or having composers on board. What I foresee is that in the future, a filmmaker or a film producer can actually generate a tune using an AI thing, and it's the music producer who shall take away all the money, because a master copy generated by the AI cannot be published. So, but the tune can. So you can actually take the underlying works and reproduce the whole track with a music producer. So I see a great threat to the tune composers who can only make tunes. They are at a huge threat over here. And but again, it's all about. I'm still waiting for specific legal guidelines for AI because they are underlying works.
Yeah.
And unlike humans, that when we create music, we have 20 years of journey behind us, and we make music. Our music is defined by who we are as humans. AI will definitely crack that also, but then AI. Suspiciously, what I've heard so far is that it literally adds fragments of existing underlying works from other songs,
Of course,
which is traceable in a manner. So I've still not dipped my feet into at least outsourcing I've never outsourced my creative calls to any of personnel, even my workplace. But as far as AI is considered, we also should use it with caution because there's underlying musical works that are a part of it, and it's just about keeping it healthy when it comes to IP laws, and I'm still waiting for the guidelines to arrive.
I think that's the last part of this conversation can be about the ethical part of using AI. I think because that's something which we all will have to tackle at some point or the other. Right now, as with the computers when they came in, internet when it came in, and NFCs when it came in, most of the governments were lagging behind in their laws because the technology was catching up at such a rapid pace that most of the governments didn't wake up on time. It's almost like major labels waking up to streaming much later on in life. So I think same with AI, the governments are now beginning to talk about the legality of it. Of course, if you think about it, if somebody is generating music from AI-related tools, what is the AI dependent on? What are the resources, the sources that it's using? It's a huge pool of already existing material. That's a deep machine learning of already existing material. That means आपका गाना, आपकी ट्यून कहीं ना कहीं, like one of you guys said, कहीं ना कहीं उसमें से लिया गया है. So what are the ethical things behind it? Like तो वो उसका share किसको जाएगा? अब मैंने 100,000 songs का एनालिसिस करके आपको एक नया गाना बना के दे दिया. So who does the money go to? Who does the property right go to? Who does the intellectual property right go to? Now those are, like you said, with the underlying song and everything, those are the issues one has to kind of talk about, have a discussion, of course with the legal bodies, the governments, all the companies involved. Of course that will come up sooner or later. It's just a matter of time, I think, and it will come up sooner than later. Karan, you have an input on that, on the ethical part of it?
नथिंग स्पेसिफिकली, अभी तक कुछ इशू तो आया नहीं है, तो हम लोग तो यूज़ कर रहे हैं बस.
मेरा प्रोड्यूसर खुश है.
ना, बट नहीं, 100% इट्स ऑल अबाउट मशीन लर्निंग. बट आई थिंक सो ह्यूमंस ऑल्सो, आई थिंक सो देयर इज नथिंग न्यू अंडर द सन. सो मैं भी जैसा मैं बड़ा हुआ हूँ, मेरा जो मशीन लर्निंग हुआ है, मेरे मॉम डैड जो गाने सुनाते थे घर पे, वो कहीं ना कहीं है सबकॉन्शियस में, और मैं जब कंपोज करने बैठ रहा हूँ तो शायद वो कहीं से आ रहा है. And it's being a part of what I'm composing right now. So technically we are also.
That's your deep machine learning.
Yeah, अपना deep machine learning भी घर पे ही हुआ है. So रेडियो पे जो भी सुना या ये भी हुआ, तो हम लोग like it's very, ऐसा लग रहा है कि मतलब वो AI is also based थोड़ा human ही है technically देखने जाए तो, because it's हम लोग उसमें feed कर रहे डेटा. यहाँ पे तो जो भी personal experiences है वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा technical है, like it's very binary, समझ लो जो भी AI में हो रहा है. यहाँ पे personal experiences है. अब वो गाना सुनते वक्त मैं दुखी था या खुश था, तो अभी वो एक सैड मेलोडी अगर मैं खुशी के टाइम पे सुन रहा हूँ जो भी है, तो उसको जब मैं कंपोज कर रहा हूँ, तो इफ़ आई एम इन दैट फीलिंग जो मैं तभी था जब वो सुन रहा था, इफ़ दैट मेमोरी कम्स बैक, आई ब्रिंग दैट मेलोडी बैक व्हेन आई एम कंपोजिंग. इट्स नॉट दैट कि फुल मतलब नया कंपोजिशन तो कर रहे हो, बट कहीं ना कहीं आई थिंक सो इट्स कमिंग फ्रॉम समवेयर व्हाट यू हैव लिसन टू पहले भी.
सो यू थिंक द डिफाइनिंग डिस्टिंक्शन बिटवीन एन AI and a new fresh creation could also be an emotional connect, which is going to define the difference?
आई थिंक सो येस, बिकॉज देखो जितना भी हो, कोई मूवी प्रोड्यूसर भी आ गया, डायरेक्टर भी आ गया, एट द एंड उसको जो एज ह्यूमंस हम समझ पाएंगे कि वो क्या बोलना चाह रहा है, कि वो बोलेगा बहुत कुछ, बट उसको जो बोलना चाहता है वो बहुत अलग चीज़ है. अब अगर वो कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर पा रहा है, बट हमारा जॉब ही, अगर सनी सर, मेघदीप सर बैठे हैं डायरेक्टर, उनको पता है कि क्या बोल रहा कुछ और है, बट उसको चाहिए कुछ और, तो AI के साथ वो नहीं होगा. और AI में जो डायरेक्टर बोलेगा वो वही ला के देगा उसको. हमारे उसमें वो पुश एंड पुल होता है कि मतलब ओके ये बोल रहा है बट ये शायद ये नहीं बोलना चाहता, कुछ और बोलना चाहता है
आई हैड दिस थिंग कि मेरे को वो नोट थोड़ा ब्लू चाहिए, नाउ यू हैव टू इंटरप्रेट ये ब्लू क्या है।
अब वो एआई ब्लू बना के दे देगा उसको, बट हम लोग को उसके लिए क्या ब्लू है, क्या पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बोल रहा है वो लगा। तो आई थिंक सो उस वे में इमोशनल और लाइक टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट्स एक्चुअली गोइंग ऑन इन द हेड ऑफ द प्रोड्यूसर कंपोजर जो भी है, वो डाइसेक्ट करना इज स्टिल वेरी डिफरेंट, क्योंकि या तो वो प्रोड्यूसर और वो कंपोजर को बहुत ज़्यादा एआई के बारे में कैसे प्रॉम्प्ट डालना है वो सीखना पड़ेगा, या
I have a question there. Suppose over a period of time, which I think is going to happen, is that you're going to have AI which is going to be your personality specific. There's going to be like a chat GTP or an AI which is going to learn your thinking and your moves and become specific to you as a person. Then do you think that barrier will also go because now it knows how you think?
अभी वो देखना पड़ेगा एग्जाम्पल। I'll have to see, like seeing is believing, so देखना पड़ेगा कि क्या actually में हो रहा है।
It's actually happening. People are actually saying now you start. It's like having your own personal, what should I say? I say your own personal robot or your own personal machine, which is going to now totally. You get up in the morning and you talk to that machine every day, and the machine is now learning a pattern of how you get up, what you think, what you feel. And maybe it will predict that every Friday morning you have this emotion.
ये सारा डेटा तो ऑलरेडी मेटा एआई के पास है, मेरे को लगता है वो बस यू बता नहीं रहा लोगों को। अपन जो इंस्टाग्राम में कर रहे हैं सुबह से शाम सब पता है उसको, तो आई थिंक सो उसको चाहिए तो अभी कर सकता है, बट वो लोग
धीरे धीरे
want to milk the whole cow.
Okay, Mari, for you?
I think in the business of making songs, in a world where there's going to be so much AI-made music, real songs will still stand out, because they come from a place, and I think people like to connect with the story of the song and where the artist is coming from. So I think those aspects, and I think live performance will not be affected. I think music making will definitely change forever because of AI, but I think we're still humans at the end of the day, and we still connect to the essence of where a song comes from.
Oh, great. So I think we are coming to a very interesting part where we are talking about a glut in the market on saturation of AI-generated material, which again, we might get tired of listening to, and we want something new and different added to it, is when the human part comes in. And of course, like she mentioned, the live part of it, which will still survive in many ways, where you are interacting with your fans on a live one-on-one basis. So that, of course, keeps the hope alive in that department. What about you, Sunny? What do you think? आगे क्या होने वाला है?
So question वो जो ethical वाला था basically, जो करण बोला है वो सही बोला है, लेकिन what he saying, so ethically wrong for me personally, yes. Will I stop using it because of that? No, because हम लोग बहुत सारी गलत चीज़ें करते हैं। Ethically तो plugins crack करना भी सही नहीं है, but बहुत लोग करके यूज़ करते हैं। बहुत सारे extremely professional लोग हैं जो लोग अभी भी पूरा का पूरा मशीन में एक सिर्फ व्हाट्सएप ओरिजिनल रखते हैं, बाकी सारी चीज़ क्रैक करते हैं, ठीक है। सो एथिकली, जस्ट बिकॉज दिस इज़ अ वाइडर नोन सब्जेक्ट, दैट्स व्हाई वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इट एथिकली, बट हम लोग काफ़ी सारी गलत चीज़ें करते हैं। अगर हम लोग यूएस जा रहे हैं, बाहर से सामान लेके आ रहे हैं, और हम अगर कस्टम्स में डिक्लेयर नहीं कर रहे हैं, एथिकली रॉन्ग है, बट हम करते हैं। हम 2 फ़ोन लेके आते हैं, खोल के आते हैं ताकि वो बंदा देखे नहीं। सो ऑन ह्यूमैनिटेरियन ग्राउंड्स ऐसे बात करते रहेंगे तो मतलब बिल्कुल भी सही नहीं है, और बिल्कुल सही भी है, because it's human nature. And also another thing is that as Karan said कि हमारा डेटा भी तो बचपन में वैसे ही बना है, and especially for people like, I think I can speak for him as well, for people who have not learned music, like my learning happened on the job, his learning happened on the job. हम लोग कुछ और करने, मैं साउंड इंजीनियर बनने वाला था, वो भी नहीं सीखा था, so it happened on the job. So obviously I've also learned from these people. The only difference is that AI is able to do it at a very fast pace, and I'm not able to catch up with that. Like, you won't be able to catch up with it. But when you get a song these days, there's not one song which doesn't come without a reference. Are you not listening to the song while you are making the music? You are 200%. You're getting entire film score edited by editors and ADs, and सारे Hans Zimmer के piece, John Williams सबके piece डाल के दे रहे, और फिर बोले ऐसा चाहिए। क्या वो ethically सही है या गलत है? We are no one to decide. अगर जिस दिन ऐसा हो गया कि हाँ अभी लोगों को पता चलने लगा कि ओ हांस जिमर का क्यू पे बेस करके बनाया है, तो फिर एथिकली गलत हो जाएगा। मतलब वो कॉपिंग के जैसा है कि अगर पकड़ेगे तो तुम चोर हो,
जब
नहीं तो
तक
it's
पकड़े
okay.
नहीं गए तो आप सही हो, right?
Correct.
That's kind
So
of thing.
just because it's a machine and it doesn't have like a human interaction thing is why we are actually even talking about it. Then there are two other aspects of it, is which what Karan again said कि वो लोगों को क्रैक करना बहुत मुश्किल है. AI को घंटा नहीं समझ में आएगा, मैं ऑनेस्टली बोल रहा हूँ, बिकॉज वो मन में कुछ है. इट्स लाइक हैविंग अ कॉन्वर्जेशन विथ योर फ्रेंड, लाइक तू पिज्ज़ा खाएगा, चलेगा. नाउ यू हैव टू क्रैक इट whether they actually want
Actually
pizza.
meant it or not.
Yeah, exactly. So that cracking part will be, I think, even in the near future, very मतलब नियर इम्पॉसिबल है. और सारे AIs को साथ में आना पड़ेगा कि चैट जीपीटी के अंदर ही सुनो बिल्ट है, ताकि चैट जीपीटी ने जो मेरे हिसाब से उसके अंदर में मन में एक कैरेक्टर बना है उसको वो समझने की कोशिश करेगा. बट एट द सेम टाइम, लाइक इफ यू गो टू अ थेरेपिस्ट, डू यू एक्चुअली स्पीक 100% ट्रूथ? यू डोंट. So the same way with AI also, I don't think so. You are saying कि मैं गलत था, you're saying कि सामने वाला गलत था, and then AI is building your character based on that. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, quickly.
Just for the ethical bit, see, again, it's learning and it's replication, or learning and interpretation. It's, I think what a safeguard would be to also, maybe write to the AI companies that they train the AIs to find any copyright infringement, any IP infringement in the AI, in the generated track, and they're already doing it. Is it already covered?
Not like that. Like they are actually doing it themselves. So they will not try and find it. The only other thing is कि AI use करो, इतना depend मत हो जाओ कि एक दिन तुम्हारा म्यूजिक बनाना बंद हो जाए.
Exactly. So I think depending on the idea, taking an idea is fine, taking a vibe is fine, but I think lifting off things would be is something that
again I think that's the law thing that has to somewhere down that line percolate down to, like, what is the law interpreted as. I think is that's what's going to define how we view AI. I think
also raising a bit of like getting a bit more aware about the IP laws of what constitutes as what could actually help you stay within a protective behavior.
environment or not. Okay. So I think Sharanya, can we just have one or two questions from the audience quickly?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So anybody out here who is getting bothered with AI? Everyone. Any quick questions to the panel? Anybody has? And everybody is happy with what we talked about? Yeah, बोल सकते हो हाँ.
हाँ.
चाय नहीं पिया लगता है सुबह सुबह किसी ने.
अच्छा, it's too early in the morning. All right. Okay, so thank you everybody. I think the definitive moment. Sorry, there's a question there. Yeah. Mr. Dayal.
अरे
इनको एक माइक दीजिए जरा.
ये आदमी को माइक मत देना प्लीज. ये नहीं ये गलत है ये.
Oh, we are short on mics. Wow. ये भी है, ऐसा नहीं है, ये भी है.
Hi, hello KJ. MDB. I have a question for music producers. What is your opinion about the engineers suggesting something in the production? Do you take it as interference or do you take it positively as the suggestions?
No, suggestion from an AI or suggestion from
the engineer.
Achha,
I said the relations.
Okay.
If it is about AI only, I don't have questions. I will ask AI. So.
Okay, so his question is based on how do producers take input from engineers? Do they take it as an interference or do they take it as a creative addition?
Do they welcome that?
Hey?
Do they welcome that? In fact,
that.
all the producers and I know this is actually a question from the 80% of the attendees here.
Oh, so they actually picked on you to ask this.
Kind of.
Okay. So beginning with Karan?
नहीं, for me, if it's a technical suggestion, 100%, like 100%. अगर ये लग रहा है कि अच्छा इसका low end मेरा low end punch नहीं कर रहा है, ये कुछ भी नहीं कर रहा है, technical suggestion 100% लेता हूँ. But if I'm very much tied to my composition and idea where I sat and made it, I like to go with my gut sometimes. Like इंस्ट्रूमेंटल आप बोलोगे कि ये ऐड करो, ये इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऐड करो, बेटर लगेगा, 100% मैं जाके ट्राई कर लूँगा. बट कुछ चेंज एज इन कॉम्पोजिशन चेंज होगा या तो फिर अरेंजमेंट चेंज होगा तो मे बी नॉट लाइक.
So that would be an interference as far as you are concerned.
For me, like मेरा वैसा है, like I'm very close to my music, so like मैं कुछ सोच के बनाता हूँ तो फिर but I'm open to like enhance it ऑल्सो लाइक इफ यू सजेस्ट में कि कुछ निकालो उससे गाने में जगह बन रहा है, आई एम ओके, बट चेंज होता है जैसे कि ये मेलोडी चेंज करना है या फिर ये ब्रिज को 2 बार और बड़ा कर दो या ये करो, वो आई एम थोड़ा सा आई फील लाइक इंटरफेरेंस समटाइम्स.
Okay, I still feel it's a very grey line. It's not really black and white, but it's a grey line. But yeah, his question is still valid.
Yeah.
Mali, what about you?
Yeah, I think depends on the kind of project. If I'm called in as a vocalist, then obviously I do take suggestions because ultimately I want what's best for the track. But when it's my own music, like you said, it's very difficult to take someone else's ideas because then it ceases to be your own composition. So, yeah.
Oh, you don't see it as a collaborative work then. You just see that it's your idea and somebody just helping you take that idea to the next step. But it's not a collaboration. That's not how you look at it.
I mean, if it was a collaboration, then we'd be dealing with it differently. But if I come into the studio to work on my own song,
With an engineer, then you
I'd want it to be that. And
they
like
just
he said, technically,
take
if
your
there are-
idea forward, not really kind of do major
Yeah.
changes. to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
बट टेक्निकली जो फीडबैक जो भी है ओपन टू इट. लाइक मैं और हनीश का तो झगड़ा चलते रहता है रोज. लाइक रोज उठ के मेरा तो आधा टाइम तो रहता है उसको चेस करने के लिए, भाई टाइम पे दे दे मिक्स. बट उस चक्कर में भी बट लाइक ही समटाइम्स कम्स एंड टेल्स मी कि इस पे ये वोकलिस्ट ले लो, ये पार्ट में कॉयर करा दो. उसने मेरे मतलब टेक्निकली उसने को प्रोड्यूस किया है वैसे देखने आया तो चीज़ें, बट नॉट इन द सेंस ऑफ कॉम्पोजिशन एंड नॉट इन द सेंस ऑफ लाइक प्रोडक्शन, बट सजेशन की एडिशन की, ये यहाँ पे ये सेक्शन ऐड करो, यहाँ पे इससे गिटार बजवा लो या इससे ये करवा दो. तो वैसे बहुत ज़्यादा सजेशंस मैं लेता हूँ.
वो तेरे को interfere नहीं
वो मेरे को
I
इंटरफेयर
mean,
नहीं
unless you ask for it. If you
Yeah,
ask for, like, for
डिपेंड्स ऑन
someone
द
to be a
डायनामिक
sounding
ऑफ
board.
लाइक कैसा है
Your
वो.
relationship with them also. Of course, that depends on that.
Yeah.
What about you, Meghdeep? तेरे को-
I think suggestion from engineer, I mean, most welcome. I mean, it's always, any suggestions are welcomed. But usually the files reach the engineer for mix once the song is done, once the production process is done. And I started the discussion with this very statement that in today's times, engineers are not responsible to handle your balance. Because in earlier days, the mix used to happen on paper. The arrangement was written down and every musician's loudness or softness was decided on the C score, on the conductor score. That is where it was decided that the viola has to play softer than the violin or louder than the cello, whatever it is. But as far as a suggestion coming from an engineer, for example, I love saturation. I love sometimes distorting the vocals. And if it's adding, if it may be technically wrong, because it's kind of, I can hear that clip, I can hear that distortion. But if it's an aggressive song, it's adding some sort of energy musically to the thing. I may differ from the engineer because yes, there have been times when things have been technically wrong, but they're musically right, they're emotionally right. And if a singer like Sukhi ji or Vishal, they're singing on mic and the preamp sort of goes red, and you can hear it, but you enjoy it because it's adding to the energy of the song, and it adds a color to it. It gives you a sense of pushing through, you know, the fourth wall. You know, it feels like almost like they're coming out and singing this. So I think it depends on what you want to convey through the music, and I think also a well-written arrangement. You know, usually production is considered sound, but it's not. Sound comes from what you've written. You know, if you've written a different, if you change the inversion of a chord, the sound changes. So the sound is not in the selection of your sample. The sound comes from the writing. And if engineers like Vijay sir, like Amay sir, who understand the art of arrangement, if they suggest you something, newbies especially, please really heed it, because they may actually be commenting from a writer's point of view and not just from sound, not just from frequencies. So
that saturation thing, no, Meghdeep and I actually had a conversation on one song, and it was as simple as Khairiyat. So he sent the stems and I heard it. I called him up, Meghdeep, there is the piano is distorting to whatever a certain level and this and that. I just asked him two things. Is that an accident? Is that on purpose? He said it's on purpose. I put the phone down. Because you know, that's something which has worked for him from the beginning. And if I'm working in whatever capacity, whether I'm sitting with the composer furthermore to work on it, now my emotions have to go away. It's the composer's song, first of all. So when it comes to this, I end up working with two kind of people. One is who have hired me to produce. Second is when I am working. So when I am working, I chose the easy path out. I mix my songs. मैं बहुत खुश हूँ. मुझे कोई stress नहीं होता है. But when I am working with someone else and say this question also comes from a very collaborative effort kind of time. जब हम लोग वो बात करते थे कि सब लोग एक रूम में बैठते थे और सब लोगों का everything used to matter a lot more than what it does right now. अभी ना सब लोग used to हो गए कि एक रूम में खुद से बनाएंगे फिर हम लोग सब अटैच हो जाएंगे उसके साथ and then we can't detach. But in reality, in a situation like this, if I've gone to a room where there's an engineer and he's suggesting me something, I'll be like, if that is not my song, I'll be like, yes, but let us have a conversation with the composer because the composer has hired all of us. So it's their call. Yeah.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Aditya.
Sir, so, I mean, do you want to conclude on this?
Yeah, we can continue, sure.
No, I mean, conclude on this question.
No, your question.
Vijay's.
We can take your question, is what I meant.
Okay, so, I mean, मेरा दुकान इसी पे based है, इसलिए it's a very sensitive topic for technology. आप लोग as composers, as engineers, I mean, most of your engineers also. So, आप जब किसी का गाना सुनते हो, कैन यू मेक आउट कि इसमें कोई VST यूज़ हुआ है या AI से बना है? नॉर्मल पब्लिक को तो बाद में समझेगा, आपको समझ में आता है कि इसमें AI यूज़ हुआ है, एंड हाउ डू यू काइंड ऑफ, हाउ डू यू नो कि दिस हैज सम टेक्नोलॉजी हैज बीन यूज्ड इन दिस?
No, so the question is that just the basic idea, can we make out the difference or not? That's just the question. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Sunny, can you yes or no? Mundi ला दे सिर्फ.
एंड हाउ डू यू मेक आउट?
He can make out.
How do you
How?
figure?
No, that's another ball game altogether.
Okay.
वो तो अब बहुत कुछ में घुस रहे हैं हम. अभी मैं सिर्फ हाँ ना में क्विक क्वेश्चन क्योंकि टाइम हो रहा है तो मैं सिर्फ यू कैन मेक आउट. ज़्यादा सुनना पड़ेगा बट he'll make out. Meghdeep? Yes, no. Can you make out if you hear something? He'll be able to make out. Karan?
मेरे को लगता नहीं अब तक मैं मेक आउट कर
कितना
पाऊंगा.
मेक आउट कर पाएगा? माली?
I think like some samples and things, but not AI and VST so much.
Yeah, of course, we can make out. Most samples are coming from libraries, and anyway, most of them, 90% or more. So yeah, we can make out. But AI, you can't, right? Not. Does that answer your question? Ki whether we can or not?
No, I'm just saying, if will the common man know that this has been made using an AI tool? So वो सुनो है.
कॉमन मैन तो अभी भी ये भी नहीं पता लग रहा हम VST यूज कर रहे हैं या ओरिजिनल कर रहे हैं. वो तो कॉमन मैन का तो अभी सो उसको तो सिर्फ सुनने से मतलब है. वो भी नहीं पता लग रहा किसने कंपोज किया और किसने गाया है. अभी तो वो भी है.
सर कॉमन मैन छोड़ी म्यूजिशियंस को नहीं पता पड़ रहा है. एक आई हैड अ सॉन्ग विच एवरीथिंग वाज लाइव इन इट, एवरीथिंग आई रिकॉर्डेड लाइव. एक बंदा मुझे एक म्यूजिक वेरी सीनियर म्यूजिशियन कॉल मी से, मेघदीप क्या प्रोग्रामिंग किया गाने में? वो तो हाँ बोले क्या प्रोग्रामिंग किया मेघदीप? मैंने कहा थैंक यू ना, केप्ट द फोन. मैंने तो म्यूजिशियंस को नहीं पता पड़ रहा, उनको नहीं समझ में आता है कि लाइव है या प्रोग्राम्ड है एक्चुअली.
So just recapping this all, this technology shift has really brought a lot of things into focus. And I think the primarily one thing which brings into sharp focus is that now it has enabled musicians to break away from the traditional forms of making music, the gatekeepers, the record labels, everything. And now you can, and like I said, we didn't talk about distribution, which is another aspect of digital technology, is that now it empowers you to make, create, collaborate, and actually put out your music all on your own without any of the gatekeepers of the earlier technology, earlier way of working. So that's very empowering for today's musician. How we use it is based on each one of you. How you view AI, how you view it, and what are your ethical own terms with it. I think that will decide the future how AI is taken forward. And I thank you all, especially this distinguished panel. It's not easy to get all these 4 people on one stage. Guys, let me tell you, the team went through a lot to get these 4 guys on stage, you know. So applaud the team at Palm behind who actually managed to get them all together. And thank you very much for being here and being a participative audience in some way. Actually, you all smiled and laughed at all our jokes, which is great. That tells you are participating and not sleeping. Thank you, everybody, and thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I invite Smita Rai on stage to please give our panelists and moderator a token of appreciation.